Okay, welcome everybody to the Board of Supervisors meeting. I'd like to call it to order and give people due notice that there are goats in the house. Possible constituents as well, I guess. Would you please rise to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll begin today with some announcements regarding closed sessions of March 18, 2008. Closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9b1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 2 cases. County Council, board action was 1 case canceled and 1 case continued to March 25th. There was a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, county representatives, CAO and Assistant CAO, Director of Human Resources and Risk Management, SEIU, regarding miscellaneous employees, human resources, board action, canceled. Closed session conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8, property APNs as follows: 44-011-050, 44-011-049, 44-011-051, and 44-011-052. Agency negotiator Brent Harrington, or alternate to be determined. Negotiating parties Ryan Voorhees and Greg Opinski. Under negotiation, instruction to negotiator regarding potential purchase price, financing options. County Council, administration, board action, nothing to report. There's an addendum to this day's agenda as follows. Item 20A will be discussion and possible action regarding resolution authorizing board chair to sign a purchase agreement for APN 44-011-049 and APN 044-011-052, Voorhees, and approve a budget adjustment which requires a 4/5 vote to deposit necessary funds in escrow for the land purchase fund from issuance of certificates of participation. We have 20B, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9b1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 1 case. County Council, its continued item from 3/18 as previously announced. 20C, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9b1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, 1 case. County Council and board action. That completes the announcements for this morning. And I'd like to move to the consent calendar. These are items expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted on by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent calendar for later discussion. Board, anybody want to take anything off? Staff? Members of the public? Do I hear a motion on the consent calendar?
I'll move the consent.
Second.
Motion and second. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote. We now will rest for 4 minutes, and at 9:10 we'll entertain public comments on any issue not on the agenda.
No, let's just go without them.
Okay, we move to item 6, public comments. This is 5 minutes per person and 15 minutes per topic.
Unless you have an animal.
And please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good morning, Ken Churches, and I have with me several young people in the 4-H Youth Development Program, and they're here to introduce themselves, and thank you for your continued support.
Could somebody help lower that mic?
I am Jacob Berry. I'm 8 years old and I'm in Trident 4-H. The projects that I do are goats, rabbits, chickens, and that's all.
I didn't quite catch your name.
Thank you for your support.
Say your name louder.
His name is Jacob Berry.
And what town do you come from, Jacob?
Valley Springs.
All right. Thank you, sir.
My name is Jason Berry. I'm from Trident 4-H. I am 12 years old. This is my 5th year in 4-H. And I do chickens, rabbits, and all kinds of goats.
Would the preceding speaker be related to you in some way?
Yeah.
What kind of goat do you have there?
This is a Nigerian dwarf goat. She is 8 years old, was born on 8 days old, was born on St. Patrick's Day, and her name is Lucky Charm.
Great. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carl Carries. I have been 4-H for 8 years, and I've been lots of projects like swine, rabbit, soapstones, and leather crafts. This is my first year raising and showing a steer. You all should come to the fair and see us all show. Thanks for always supporting 4-H. I have learned a lot in 4-H about responsibility and how to take good care of my animals.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tyler Carries. I've been 4-H 8 years. I've done many different projects, and this year I'm a team leader in the swine project, and I'm also raising a steer. I think 4-H is a great way for kids to learn about leadership and responsibility and have a lot of fun, and I just want to thank you for all your support.
Thank you for coming today. Thanks.
Cool.
All right. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, young man.
Thank you. Sure like your goat.
Me, I need one. Thanks.
Well, it's a hard act to follow, but does anybody else want to bring in anything from items from the public?
I thought we were going to get a goat.
Hi, I'm Brock Colby from Behavioral Health, and this is Lori Sundholm. She is our senior outreach worker. We've expanded our services under Prop 63, the Mental Health Services Act, and we're doing more outreach for seniors in the community, and that's what Lori is doing. And we're also going to have a class for our senior peer counseling program. And I have some flyers here for you, and it's starting on April 3rd. And if you know of anyone who is interested in volunteering to be a peer counselor, it's a program that Behavioral Health sponsors that provides free counseling for seniors in the community. And it's a real need out there because there's a lot of seniors who are isolated, depressed, and can benefit from this. Questions?
I just want to add, with the cuts in the state and the county, it's really, really important to have the seniors support system through peer counselors, volunteers, and if you know anybody, just anybody 55 or over, it's a good cause. Thank you.
Yes. Welcome to county service. Thanks for joining up.
Good morning. My name's Bonnie Newman. I'm here to talk about two issues today. First one will probably lead into the second one. I had to call the health department to make sure I was right, and March is Colorectal Awareness Month. Whoopee! How do we celebrate? Okay.
Bend over.
Well, almost. It's really important. It's something that I really didn't think about. When you're 40 years old, you're supposed to go get yourself examined. And then when you're 50 years old, you're supposed to get yourself examined. When you're 60 years old, it's always a real good idea to do that. Well, when I was 40, I had insurance, but I wasn't interested. When I was 50, my mom had an episode, and I thought it was real important to maybe get myself checked out, but I didn't have insurance. So finally, with the home health care workers, we've got some insurance. So I decided to go get myself checked out to celebrate my 60th birthday. Relatively simple, takes about 20, 30 minutes in the hospital. They found something. They called me up and said, "Congratulations, Bonnie, you're not going to die of colon cancer." And that's a horrible way to die. And then I thought, why didn't they say that a long time ago? It's a horrible way to die. I might have taken it a little more seriously. Well, that was wonderful, and then I got the bills. Just a 20-minute procedure in the hospital. You're there about 2 hours. You walk in, you walk out. $4,450. My health care insurance has paid $787, and so far I've paid $2,340. Our health care is at the barest minimum possible. I realize that it costs about $200 a month for 50 health care workers, and there's 200 of us, and only 50 of us are covered right now, to have the most minimum health care coverage. It doesn't cover hospital stay. It doesn't cover catastrophic insurance. And I couldn't help but notice when the county employees got their salary increase, their minimum contribution for a single person is $415. I know that there's not a lot of money, but in 3 years when we come back to negotiate with the county, we'd like to consider improving the health care levels that, the insurance levels that we're dealing with. I'm not sure where the money's going to come from, but I think it's real important that everyone have some access to health care, and as health care workers, it's really crazy that we're on such a minimum level. I'd like to pursue the insurance company to find out individually if we could each buy up to a different level, if that's what's most important to us. But I haven't gotten any answers about that yet myself. So that's just a couple of issues that I thought I'd bring up and throw out to you, and maybe you can think about, first of all, getting a checkup, because it's really a simple procedure, and second of all, helping the healthcare workers get a level of health insurance that will allow them to get the checkups they need when they need to have them done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Would anybody else like to speak under items from the public?
Good morning. Jeannie Boyce, Director of the Health Services Agency. I just wanted to bring to your attention that tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. there will be a special documentary called Crystal Darkness on the local television channels. Channels 3, 10, 13, 31, 40, and 58 have all pledged to show this really important documentary about the devastation that methamphetamine takes upon families. It is really targeted towards youth and parents, and we just wanted to let our local community know that there is help available in Calaveras County. Treatment does work. People do recover from methamphetamine addiction. If people have questions, they can call 754-6555. That's our local substance abuse program available through our behavioral health services. We do have an adolescent treatment program. And we also have staff that's available to go out and do community presentations. If there is anybody who would like a specific presentation on methamphetamine and what it does, its impact upon families, please let us know. We're available to help. Just wanted to give that heads up to you.
Thank you, Jeannie. Any other presentations under items from the public?
Good morning. My name is Sarah Tuthill, and this is my mother-in-law, Suki Tuthill, and we are members of the Bret Harte Benefit Basin in Murphy's. And we're concerned because we live on the road, and I have 2 small children. I apologize for bringing them. But people are driving very fast on the road. There are no sidewalks. There are no speed bumps. The road is in pretty poor condition. Our understanding when we paid into the Bret Harte Benefit Basin was that within 5 years of paying, there would be some sort of a plan, and as of right now, we don't see a plan. We did see when the subdivision in 1995, there was a resolution in the general plan for Douglas Flat and for Murphy's, the general plan, that there was a resolution that sidewalks would be a part of the plan. But as of right now, there is no plan, so we're concerned. We would like to see somebody to look into that. And something else, I noticed that on the website for the county, there's a link for the Copper Basin and the Valley Springs Basin, but there's nothing for the Bret Harte Benefit Basin. So we would just like you to look into that, because it is dangerous living there. We've had dogs hit in front of our house. We've had cars come off the road. We try to walk into town and with strollers, and it's very concerning. So, thank you.
Thank you. Would like to take exception to one thing you said, which was the apology that you gave for bringing your kids. Kids are always welcome here, and we do understand that the situation with child care in this county is not such that it's easy to appear before them.
There's the child care provider.
Right. Well, yes, Grandma is usually the best hope, but thanks for all of you coming here today.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Morning, Diane King in San Andreas. I'd like to thank the county for putting the board packet documents on the internet. That was tremendous. It was the best thing for a long time, because it made it a lot easier to have to go over to the government center, save on wear and tear on our roads, everything else. It was really great, and I'm glad you did it. Can I push a little further? And
you got at least 3 minutes left.
I know. Can somebody sort of explore the possibility of maybe going one step further, and instead of loading it all as one document, because there was like 304 pages I had to download, it took a long time, is if we tie our links, you put the agenda item, I've seen other counties do it, if you put the agenda item on one, and if you just want to read what the agenda item is, it's a quick link, and then if you want to go one step further and actually want the board documents, then you go to a separate link and download just the documents for that board item. That would even help tremendously if you did that. The other thing is, and I don't know how you're going to do it, because one of the things that was not in that board packet, and I think it's on our agenda today in connection with the introduction of our revising one of our, was it Public Works or something like that? That document was not included in the packet. I forgot there's something on our agenda about.
Is that item 21?
Is that, yeah.
That was
that
legal access.
No, it was
14, I think.
14?
introducing a new ordinance for combined stuff. That document was not in the downloadable stuff. So keep on. We'll get there yet. Thanks.
Mr. Stolman, are you listening? Just a little joke. Howard Stolman, the director of our agency that takes care of our computers and information technology, is the person that we'll have to talk to about that, and we will. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm hoping we can take care of that technical thing and make those links. It would make it more efficient, and I know my computer crashes on volume such as a typical board packet. Other items from the public? Okay, we will move to item 7. This is a resolution proclaiming April 6th through 12th, 2008 as National County Government Week in Calaveras County, and CalWorks is presenting this.
Good morning. I'm Mary Sawicki, Director of Calaveras Works and Human Services. I'm here to ask the board to proclaim April 6th through 12th as National County Government Week in Calaveras County. The National Government Week was started by the National Association of Counties basically to highlight the good things that happen in our county community. This year, the theme is protecting our children. Hopefully, all of you have before you a pin that I'm sure you're going to want to wear in your lapels in the next month that take a look at the protection of children. And so I'm sure they'll be on by the end of the board meeting. This year, we'd like to highlight a county event that really we think is indicative of our community. It's the second annual Baby Fair. I'm going to ask Kathy Borland from HRC to come up and explain that particular event to you.
Hi, Kathy Borland. I couldn't have planned this better. I was just thinking the kids and the animals and the children were here today. Remember when I used to come and bring lots of kids to come and sing to you? Well, I couldn't have planned that any better. It's actually the second Baby Fair Children's Day, and I wanted to give you a little history of the Children's Day. The Children's Day started almost 30 years ago when HRC was just a fledgling little nonprofit. We wanted to get together and do something fun for children and families, and also we wanted to do it for free so that families didn't have to come and spend a lot of money. So we started doing it between Amador and Calaveras County, and we did it in McCollum Hill because it was between the two of them. And that kind of grew, and we separated from Amador, and we became this huge entity. And we are actually has grown and kind of came together with the Baby Fair, which was going on. And we are currently at the Frog Jump. We are big time now. And what we have there is we have almost 30 booths that offer free activities for children. That was one of the core values that we used when we established this, that there would always be something free for children and families to do. But the most amazing thing about the Baby Fair Children's Day is that it's a real collaborative in this community between county entities, other nonprofits, the child care community, and other folks that are interested in children and families. And I know that that's something that you're all interested in. And I want to invite you, March 29th, please come out to Frog Jump. It's free. Bring your grandchildren, bring your children, bring your neighbors' children, bring children in the area. It's children of all ages and sizes. Pregnant mothers are very welcome. We even cater to teenagers now. So please come and bring your children out. It's a very interesting and very wonderful day, and it is free, and there's activities all over the place. And I want to just introduce to you, if they could just stand up in the audience, Cheryl Berg and Kathy Wagner, who do the yeoman's share of planning this organization and working this organization. And the other folks in the audience that are here are First Five, Karen, and Joyce is here, and I know that the folks from CalWorks are here also. Everybody puts in a lot of effort into this. These are your county folks and your community coming together for a free, fun-filled day. And I expect to see every single one of you out there walking around with children or without. And most of all, I look forward to seeing Steve inside of the bouncing house.
As opposed to the dunk tank last time?
We don't do dunk tanks because we cater to little children.
Well,
so
all right.
I want to
That's
see you
a
bounce
relief.
up and down in the bounce house. Please bring children out. Please come. It's really, really, really fun. And I also have tchotchkes for you. I also have pins that I'd like to pass out to you to remind you that April is also the Week of the Young Child. It is April 13th to the 19th, where we celebrate children and we celebrate all children, not just our own children. So I'm going to hand these out to you.
Kathy, what time does it start? All of these are for me?
You pass them out. You get to pick first. Actually, Marita just asked me. It's 10 to 2 on the 29th of March at Frog Jump. Watch the balloons. Bring your children, and we'll see you there. Thank you for having us here and supporting everything you do for children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Jeannie Boyce, Director of Health Services. Kathy's always a hard act to follow. Just wanted to let you know that the Health Services Agency is also co-sponsoring the event, and we wanted to let folks know that the car seat program, the Child Safety Passenger Program, will have a car seat check at the baby fairs. Families can come. We have certified technicians in partnership with HRC and the CHP to help evaluate toddlers, infants, and youth in terms of what types of vehicle restraints they need to keep their kids safe while they're in a vehicle. Our maternal, child, and adolescent health program will have a public health nurse available to help talk about effective breastfeeding, early prenatal care, and nutritional needs. Our behavioral health staff will be out there as well, doing community outreach, talking about our perinatal treatment program for mothers and pregnant persons who may need some help if they're facing addiction issues. So just want you to know that county staff is in partnership with others in the community, and look forward to seeing you there.
Thank you.
One last plug for the baby fair. I'm Karen Pekarsik, Director for First Five Calaveras, and First Five is really proud to continue to be a sponsor for the baby fair and Children's Day. We have several grantees that, through their collaboration with all of the partners in the county, all of the services, will be out there promoting prevention and wellness for children and school readiness. We have a reading tent that will be a collaborative event with First Five. Joyce Peak will be coordinating that with Head Start, State Preschool, and children will be able to come and decorate a book bag and get free books. Our grantee, the Calaveras Children's Dental Project, will be present providing screenings for children for dental health and oral health and giving education and insurance information to parents. There are a lot of free activities, but most importantly, what's underneath that is the rich information that families can get and the access to resources that we do in partnership with you. So it's an excellent example of what you are supporting through your National County Governments Week resolution. We appreciate that, and thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you at the baby fair.
Thank you, Karen.
So in summary, I'd like to also announce that if the public would like to donate to the Children's Trust Fund, they can through their property tax. They'll be receiving a notice of the opportunity, and those funds go for such great events as Baby Fair or other child prevention activities in our community. Therefore, I request that you consider adopting a proclamation.
I move this resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Resolution is passed. We now move to our item 8, public hearing and consideration of an application for funding from the general allocation of the State Community Development Block Grant Program. It comes from the administration, and I believe there are people here to speak on the topic.
Good morning, Larry Busby, Central Sierra Planning Council. This is the time allotted for the public hearing on the proposed application that the county has authorized for submission to the State Community Development Block Grant Program. The board previously reviewed 3 activities, selected 2 activities for the application. Both were included in the resolution. The application will be submitted to the state no later than April 3rd at 5 p.m. If the application is approved, you will hear about that late May, early June at best. If the application is approved by the state in May or June, it'll probably be July or August before you actually have a standard agreement in place, and the program would probably start this fall. So I have here a sign-in sheet, and I would ask anyone who does wish to address the board to sign in on this sheet as well as the clerk's sign-in sheet, and I'll be available to answer any questions if you have any.
Okay, are there any people in the room who wish to offer public testimony in the public hearing? Okay, sign up over here, and we will now open the public hearing.
Good morning. My name is
one moment. I wanted to ask, are we still swearing people in for public hearings, or have we decided to waive that? I agree. All right. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Karen Glaze. I'm with Motherlode Job Training, and I'm now the manager for the Job Connection here in Calaveras. I spoke with you last month about our intention to submit an application for public services activities under the Community Development Block Grant. At that time, I wasn't very specific about the amount. Since then, I've done some planning, and we actually have an application ready to submit through Larry Busby. At this time, Motherlode is going to be requesting a little over $410,000 for 2 years to serve 107 low to moderate income individuals in Calaveras County. When I went back and looked at the number of people who are unemployed, the number of people who were in Calaveras, I decided that rather than going with the state numbers that we had last year, that I would really do some planning from the bottom up, and that was what we came up with, 107 people over 2 years. Any questions? I have a copy for each of the supervisors, just a summary of our description of the program. Would you like it?
Is there anybody else who would like to comment on the public hearing part of this agenda item 8? If not, we will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board.
So, I have a question. Larry, so we had 500, 600, 700 that we were asking for total?
Yes, you're asking for that amount of money for 2 separate programs.
Right. So if Motherlode wants 410, can we take the 90 and move it to Human Resource Council?
You could, but that's not what they're requesting. They've already submitted their request for $225,000 for the purpose of purchasing equipment.
All right.
So unless they require additional funding for the purchases, I don't see any purpose of that.
So Larry, in this document, the number is $200,000 for the food bank. Are they going to modify that to $225,000, or is that going to come out of the other $90,000?
No, you have 2 separate allocations. One of for $500,000 maximum that was available to the Job Trade Agency, and a maximum of $500,000 that was available to HRC. HRC, since I wrote that memo to you, has amended their request based on new information they received on the cost of the equipment to $225,000. That's still well within the $500,000 that they would be able to use under the program as it's currently structured.
I think possibly the question has to do with if we're asking for more than 200 for HRC, do we need to modify the documents that are in front of us?
The document or the resolution?
Well, we have the March 14th letter that you just
That's correct,
quoted from. The resolution reflects the new.
So I see
I
that
may be missing this.
the resolution is like a blanket or umbrella asking for up to $1 million for these activities, and so you're
In combination.
That's correct.
So you're going to go forward with the 410 and the 225.
Correct. The county is applying for up to $500,000 per activity, as allowed under the program. The amount that's actually applied for will be determined by the Mother Lode Job Trade Agency under their program and the Human Resources Council under their program.
All right, I understand. Thank you. Any other board questions or comments? Do I hear a motion on the topic?
So moved.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote. We now move to public hearing under item 9.
Once again, this is an additional program that involves the county's Community Development Block Grant Program. In this case, it is an adoption of the amended program income reuse plan. What these funds cover are those funds that are returned to the county from previous activities which are still maintain federal identity. The county is required to have a plan in place that's approved by the state of California as to how you will expend those funds. Those funds can only be expended for eligible activities that are also available under the regular Community Development Block Grant programs. The state has approved the program income reuse plan you have in front of you. It does require both a public hearing and an adoption by resolution by the Board of Supervisors.
Before we commence the public hearing, are there any questions from the board?
Larry, is the only modification to this that one new housing, new construction revolving loan account? Is that the only modification?
What happened is that new program is one that the state hasn't addressed before, the program income reuse plan, so it was gone over with a fine-tooth comb since it was the first one presented to them. The issue, when you change a program income reuse plan, one component, you open up the entire plan for a new review.
I see.
So we've had a situation where we've had to go through and amend a lot of the subrecipient agreements, conform to existing regulations, and this process is drawn out quite a while.
So they just scrutinize the whole submission?
They opens up the whole thing. So we've kind of gone back and forth with the state till they've gotten to this point where they've approved what's been submitted.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? In that case, we will open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to this item?
Once again, I have another sign-in sheet just for this public hearing as well.
Okay.
Diane Keene, San Andreas. I have a question for Mr. Busby on the rehabilitation, housing rehabilitation. Who is the entity that's supervising it, running it, whatever you want to call it?
The Calaveras County Housing Committee is in control of the housing rehabilitation program. All activities are presented to that committee for consideration, and then that committee makes a decision whether to go forward with the activity or not.
Who's the where do you get a hold of the housing committee? And who's the subrecipient?
The housing committee consists of administrative staff in the administrative office. The committee hasn't met in 6 or 7 months because there hasn't been items to bring forward to it. The committee is basically consisting of Karen Osborne, who's in the administrative office. Shirley Ryan is also on the committee. Former CAO Tom Mitchell was on the committee. The committee basically is loosely structured among staff in the county admin. It sits as a committee, but is not an appointed committee by the Board of Supervisors. I don't know if that helps.
Right, but who's actually implementing the rehabilitation of the houses?
Okay. Our agency has an agreement with the county to provide the committee with the information required to go forward with a program. So if you're looking for a subrecipient, which there isn't a subrecipient, there's only an MOU between the county and our agency to conduct the program.
But somebody physically has to do the work.
That's correct.
Who's the person that physically does the work?
Licensed contractors.
The other question I have is, where do we advertise if people want to be in the rehabilitation program?
The county, is this okay going back and forth like this?
We're running a pretty loose public hearing at this point, but yes, that's okay. We're interested in getting the information out, and you're welcome to continue the colloquy.
I mean, you can answer them and you can't, so go ahead.
The county's program is on a continuous open basis based on the funding they have available at any one time. Potential applicants may contact our office or the county admin office, and we will contact the applicant with an application.
I know, but my question is, where to advertise? Is a public notice in the newspaper? Where is it advertised?
It isn't public notice right now because it's a continuous program. It never ends.
But how does the public know that there's a rehabilitation program going on and nothing is put in the newspaper, nothing is announced on TV?
We can certainly go to the Calaveras County Housing Commission, ask them if they would like to pursue an advertisement in the local newspaper or radio ads or however they want to do it. And if they so instruct, we will do that.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak in this public hearing? In that event, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the board. Any comments? Any motions?
I'll move the resolution.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Any discussion? I'll discuss one thing. I think the issue raised about how people find out about this program is really important. We have a really far-flung county. Sometimes if you happen to be in San Andreas, you'll get more information than, say, way out in the hinterlands, and I'd like to find a way for this housing committee to get the word out in an equitable way. That said, there's motion second. Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We now move to item 10, public hearing and possible action regarding the following zoning amendment, tentative parcel map and subdivision tract map for Oak Canyon Ranch, LLC, Community Development Agency. Bob Selman, I believe, is presenting. Do you wish to consider 10A and B concurrently?
I was going to ask that you at the very least open the hearings. What happens is many of the comments on one item will relate to the other, so that there's not having to repeat everything for the second hearing. I would ask, obviously, to have separate motions at the appropriate time.
Okay. In that case, we will consider the public hearing concurrently with both issues, both items. Before we start the public hearing, do you have a presentation?
Mr. Chairman, very briefly, you have our written staff report. Let's call my notes here. There are just a bit of background for any of the public who may not be aware of how we got here and where we are and what we're trying to do today. In 2003, the county adopted the Oak Canyon Ranch specific plan and development agreement and environmental impact report for all of the development as is shown approximately under the clock. Using that example, there was a development agreement that sets forth the maximum density, approximate road configuration, and other allowable uses. At the time of that approval, we did not do site-specific zoning or approved tentative maps because the project was still well short of the full development stage. Since then, and I apologize because you can't necessarily see it, some of the revisions that are occurring are in this board that are in front of Supervisor Thomas. The applicants have worked to refine many of the on-site specific issues relative to drainages, archaeological resources that were known or had to be worked around. And we are finally to the point where we are ready to implement the first phases of this development, which is accomplished basically by the boards that are shown on the wall. First, we are going to be zoning the area. If you want to look at the large lot parcel map, we are zoning the areas that are covered by that large lot parcel map with the appropriate zones that are consistent with the development agreement. So we have open space, we have public service areas for schools and other infrastructure. And we are then also approving the first tentative map, which is a large lot tentative map that covers rather grossly the specific areas that are shown on those plats. And you should have all this information in your packet. After that is accomplished, the next consideration will be to adopt the specific tentative subdivision map, which is reflected in the bar map on the wall, that actually creates the individual lots upon recording of the final map that are the actual development. So the large lot parcel map is to allow the developers the ability to do financing, set up whatever transfers may be necessary so they can actually get to the point of dealing with the actual tentative map which creates the ultimate parcels. In addition, the large lot parcel map would allow them, as a specific example, to transfer the school sites that are previously agreed to those school districts. The large lot tentative map is relatively straightforward. Again, it is a future planning tool. Again, the specifics on the tentative map, if you were to very carefully compare against the original general site plan of the concept master plan, there are variations. These are specifically designed to work around the ground, those things they find. I always refer to the illustrious, Rock of Gibraltar. When you didn't see it when you started designing and you find it later, obviously you have to move around it. So those are the engineering problems we all recognize will occur. The environmental review at this stage, we have made clear, is a categorical exemption. We have provided a minute order that shows that exemption because there is a specific set of government codes that deal with projects that have specific plans and development agreements. With the completion of the environmental impact report in 2003, that basically accomplished all of the environmental review that was necessary for this project and its ultimate development. And this, at this point, is substantially a moving forward with these projects based on those original approvals. I am going to ask one additional notation, or if you would, an addition to the minute order, and that is that we also find that the sheriff's office, the sheriff's agreement, which I know was provided to you, meets the specific requirements of mitigation measure 4.7.2.1a, which was that there be an agreement between the county sheriff's office and the developer to assure that there is appropriate policing in the future. After quite a bit of negotiations, that has been accomplished. You've seen that agreement. And again, that is between the sheriff's office, but we would just like a confirmation that you agree that since that was your mitigation measure, the execution of that agreement fulfills the requirement. And that was done after review by council as well. We have a couple of specific questions, and Supervisor Callaway has asked about additional traffic studies. Again, those were covered at the time of the original approval. There will be a need for specific traffic reviews with Caltrans at the time of the actual connection of a future phase to the state highway, but those are going to be site-specific based upon the actual location and any specific improvements that would be needed for that intersection, not whether or not the intersection is provided for, because that has already been covered in the development agreement. Again, there was a question about the state law relative to oak trees. As I stated earlier, the rules were set when the specific plan and development agreement were approved. Clearly, if the developer chooses to offer up something other than what the county currently requires, that is a possibility. And as one example, if you will look at it would be, for the sake of discussion by orientation, it is the most left tier of large lots. There is an area, I can't read the number, it's kind of an orange, my eyes, sort of an orange shade. It's that area in there. That was an area of, I believe it was blue oaks, that the county specifically mitigated for by requiring larger lots. And in fact, the developer, should you by chance look at this lower map, has actually even reduced the number of lots further in order to deal both with drainage and the oak issues. So it is not something that we ignored or did not deal with at all. It was done at the time under the rules as provided for. The sheriff's office agreement is binding. The question was asked, what is the relationship between the sheriff's office agreement and this whole series of maps? The agreement is binding on this developer and all future purchasers for development. There is a assumption agreement that makes it clear that this agreement runs with the land until it expires. And there was also a question of, is there a potential for additional units? And if I misstate this, Marita, please correct me. And is there a concern about doing these progressively and somehow changing the number of units that are allowed? The answer is absolutely no. The total number of units that are provided for are covered by the development agreement. It's explicit. And as with other developments, we will literally be running a tally on the total number of units that are proposed by map, so that the total number of ultimate development units cannot exceed that is provided for in the specific plan and development agreement. There was one other, there was a comment in one of the letters that was sent to our office relative to driveways, and it talks about a limitation, and those were actually not included as conditions of these maps. Future development and addressing driveway issues will be based upon actual proposals for individual lots at the time of their construction, and it is our belief that they will be, to the county's standard of driveways, will be mitigated to a 16% grade, and that means whatever it means, and that's not a specific condition of this map, though, or any of these maps. Those are general administrative requirements at the time of individual building permits according to current code. So I believe, and forgive me if I've missed anything, I believe those were all of the issues that we had that had been raised earlier. Again, staff and the commission have recommended approval, and we have a whole series of motions that would need to be done in the appropriate order if your board so agrees. So at this point, I should stop talking and let you open the hearing unless you have further specific questions.
Okay, are there any questions from the board before commencing with the public hearing? Hearing none, we will now begin the public hearing on item 10. Anybody wish to speak?
Michael Walker, Undersheriff. As Mr. Solomon said, the Sheriff's Office does have what they believe is a workable agreement with the developer. I think that this agreement actually will serve as a model for future development for the sheriff's office to mitigate its needs for patrol staff and additional staff that support staff, be them correctional officers, dispatchers, what have you. This agreement states that commencing with the construction of the first residential unit or transient occupancy unit in Phase 1, that the developer agrees to hire and staff a full-time deputy sheriff's position. At the completion of that unit, the developer agrees to hire a correctional officer and/or dispatcher. Or dispatcher, not and/or. As a trigger mark in the future development of this project, at the 1,200th residential unit completion, another deputy sheriff would be hired and paid for by the developer. At the completion of the 2,000 residential unit, again, another deputy would be hired for the development. At the initial phase also, there's a vehicle purchase that's incorporated into the agreement, and a new vehicle would be purchased every 5 years after that. The term of the agreement runs 25 years. The developer does have in the agreement with the sheriff's office that their fees that they're paying for this could be mitigated if they develop a community service area or a community service district that incorporates this agreement into it. But the sheriff's office and the county staffing of this for the sheriff's office is covered in this agreement.
Mike, I just wanted to make sure of one thing. You had said that the developer would hire, I think they're compensating the county for hiring.
Correct.
Is that correct?
There's a monetary amount that goes with those positions that they will pay to the county.
And that's also true of the purchase of the vehicles?
Correct.
All right, thank you. Any questions?
Mike, the concern, I think I addressed it when we were doing the Canyon a few years ago, is then the expectation that they will have a deputy, they'll loan a deputy, figuratively speaking.
A dedicated?
And, yes, and
well, the deputy will be working this development and the general area because the development does have an impact on the community. These people don't stay in their homes and they don't, they have to leave the development. I understand that.
I just felt like that needs to be out there again, that the deputy isn't just assigned to Oak Canyon Ranch, that they will be, they're going to be like a resident deputy for that area.
Correct. Our deputies right now are assigned a specific beat area and that they work for a year at a time, and then it goes out to rebid. The deputy that's assigned to this would be assigned to this area.
This area being what area?
Copperopolis.
Okay.
Does it have to be Michael, or is it up to the discretion of the sheriff as to how to assign deputies?
Well, it's up to the discretion of the sheriff. I mean, in an emergency situation, this deputy would be called away. If we had fires or something like that.
Is this a dedicated deputy?
To that area.
To that area?
Yes.
So, are you going to be supplanting
No.
the current deputy?
No. This would be over and above.
In addition.
Is that in the agreement? We haven't seen that agreement, so at some point it would be nice to see the agreement.
Well, we were given the draft, but we were sent the draft. Jim sent us the draft.
I made extra copies when I saw that you had all been sent it. I didn't send them out back to you again, but actually we have copies here.
Are we approving that agreement today, Bob?
No, you were just acknowledging its existence.
Well, in draft form.
In draft form, the sheriff, I believe, has already executed the document. The discussion is that it needs the county's concern over mitigation measures to assure that this will not have an undue impact on otherwise required policing services. And we have tried to be very careful in working with the sheriff's office and developer to ensure that this is not the purchase of a police officer for this development.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's pretty clear, I believe, in the document that
All right.
The discretion and operation is under the sheriff's office, period.
Isn't this a direct response to letters that the sheriff wrote when a number of proposals came in saying that under current financing and under the current arrangement that the county would not be able to meet the needs that new populations such as are implied by the approval of this map?
The sheriff's always saying that.
Well, but this is actually a response to that, where the proponent of the project has stepped up to answer that with funds.
This completes the specific previous requirement of mitigation measure 4.7.2.1A that requires this agreement. So that's why we're just trying to reinforce that is the fact.
Right, and Mike, you're here today to tell us that the sheriff is satisfied that this will mitigate the impact of this development in these stages.
Correct.
And you're satisfied with it.
We are.
All right.
Yeah, other question.
So this comes back to the board for approval, does it not?
No, this is executed by
This is mitigation. This is
just a mitigation measure.
correct. It's a mitigation measure. The board required that there be such an agreement, and the agreement is between the sheriff and the developer.
Well, can the sheriff require that? Doesn't the board have to require that? I mean, we don't have independent departments going around signing contracts that are binding on the county, do we?
My understanding, and
Without review by the board?
my understanding, and the question actually was asked whether or not this requires the board's signature. My understanding is the board required the mitigation measure, and the sheriff is complying with that mitigation measure through this agreement, and the sheriff's signature was sufficient. The board wasn't, and I'll defer to counsel who I see on the quarter.
That question was asked of me.
I mean, I must say I have some concerns with that process.
The board, when it approved the EIR and the mitigation monitoring plan, set the mitigation measure as stating that the developer had to make the sheriff happy. So the agreement is basically with the sheriff. It doesn't require the board's signature. However, the board does need to make a finding that this agreement does meet the intent of the mitigation measure. So that's why it's not for your signature.
I don't think that's a good way to do business. I mean, if we're going to have a contract out there, I think it needs to come through the board, not through department heads. And I think procedurally we need to change how we do that.
If that's the board's direction, then we'll bring it to the board's attention next time we have a mitigation measure that addresses impacts to the sheriff.
It needs to come back to the board.
all right. After the close of this public hearing, I'll poll the board on that topic. Thank you. Are there other people who wish to speak in this public hearing?
Wait,
there's a question
Just a second,
from
I
Supervisor
just have,
Callaway.
when the board finally gets the courage to put in a facility fee for public safety, will this be a duplicate to those people pulling permits in Oak Canyon?
No.
So they will be exempt. So if they're doing this...
Developer fees do not cover staffing. This covers staffing. Developer fees cover, the facility impact fees. Facility impact fees cover buildings.
And jails.
Jails.
Yeah. Okay, so
radio towers.
We'll double dip them. I mean, from their perspective.
Yeah, this just strictly covers staffing.
Okay.
No, it's separate.
No, the development agreement precludes the application of any after-adopted fees to this project. So for the term of the development agreement, they are exempt from any fees that we do adopt.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Thank you, Janice.
This is staff.
And the development agreement was for how long? 20 years?
25.
25 years? No, the development agreement was for how long?
With the sheriff's office?
No, the original development agreement. Janice.
It's two separate
The
things.
development agreement, and Nikki can correct me if I'm wrong, was, as I recall, was for 25 years. 20 years. They asked for 25. You gave them 20 years.
From the date we signed the
From
development.
the date you signed it.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
This
I remember
particular,
that.
this funding agreement is through the CEQA process that you adopted as
Right.
part of the EIR. It does include facilities in addition to staffing. The facilities fee that's being discussed is primarily for capital improvements. As you've been I don't believe there's actually been board discussion on this, but there is an ability to actually adopt an impact fee that addresses staffing, and that is something the Sheriff's Department is working on independently. That eventually, I assume, will get to the board.
I forgot. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else who wishes to speak?
Chair Walensky, supervisors, staff, my name is Maury Froman. I'm one of the principals of Oak Canyon Ranch, LLC. We're here today to request that the Board of Supervisors approve zoning amendment and tentative parcel map 2007-25 and tentative subdivision tract map 2007-49. First, I would like to thank staff for all their hard work to bring this item before you today. I'd also like to thank Chair Walensky and Vice Chair Russ Thomas for all their efforts in resolving the issue concerning the proposed Parkway access road alignment that will afford residents of the Copper area the very necessary secondary access needed for the area. Since staff has given you a review of the project and explained our request, I would only like to stress that this project is approximately 19 years in the making. As of this month, Oak Canyon Ranch LLC has been involved for 9 years. This project has gone through more scrutiny than any other in the county, culminating with our approvals of our EIR, our specific plan, our zoning code, and our development agreement in December of 2003. What we're seeking today is the implementation of those approvals, the next steps towards hopefully starting construction in approximately 18 months. With me today are Nikki Carlson, our counsel, and Tom Platts, our civil engineer, and between the three of us, hopefully we can answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address this under the public hearing?
This is your lucky day. Diane King, San Andreas. I'd like to propose something. This was brought up at the Planning Commission meeting and stuff like that. In fact, Janice had emailed me a copy of the development agreement that referred to the $500 that Mr. Furman is scheduled to donate in connection with affordable housing. And I believe it said as the building permits were pulled. It's not my intention to change that. He's already agreed to it. But what I'd like to try and recommend is some of how it was going to get implemented and stuff like that is not there. It's missing. So what I would like as part of our resolution, and the county council and Mr. Foreman can work out the thing, is as these building permits are pulled, I would like to see Mr. Foreman donate the $500 for each building to Habitat for Humanity. Habitat for Humanity is already in the position of evaluating families as far as income levels. You know the money, you know the good work they do. It would also seem like a logical step, because for the county to process $500 here, $500 there, or whatever, it's not cost effective. If the money gets donated to Habitat for Humanity, he actually gets a tax advantage too. Not that it's sort of peanuts in his, I'm sure, in his budget, but I'd like to see something like that written into our proposal. I didn't ask him ahead of time, but I don't think he would disagree with something like that. It's just merely implementing how the $500 is going to get processed, so to speak, because that's missing out of the development agreement. And right now, affordable housing can be anything from here to there. It's sort of a buzzword, but if the money goes directly to Habitat for Humanity as he pulls his building permits, you know it's going to get used in the right spot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. I am pleased to be here this morning. My name is Paul Stein from Castle & Cook. I'd like to introduce my colleagues to my immediate right, lead counsel for Castle & Cook, Mr. Mark Jones, and of course you all know Mr. Dave Haley, the Vice President and Division Manager of Castle & Cook. I am here this morning to express my continued support for the Oak Canyon Ranch tentative map before you today, and I say continued support as my last official act in 2003 as chair of the board was to drop the gavel on the Oak Canyon Ranch entitlement before you. So it's apologize that it's been 19 years, but we are making progress, Maury. Over the past several months, Oak Canyon Ranch and Castle & Cook have endeavored to develop a bilateral agreement to establish a parkway connection for a secondary access route for the Copper Valley and the Copperopolis Community Plan. I'm pleased to tell everyone this morning that at last night, about 11 o'clock, that agreement was concluded successfully. Nothing like a little pressure to get people to get things done. So we really appreciate the hard work of that. But it's going to be a big benefit for the Copperopolis Community Plan and the overall circulation element down there in Copperopolis. I'd especially like to thank the principals from Oak Canyon Ranch for helping us to reach this accord, and especially Maureen, my good buddy, and Nikki and Tom did a great job all through this process. More importantly, I'd like to say thank you to Russ Thomas. You've been the visionary behind this since you were the architect of the Vision 2020 plan, which I think probably precipitated your involvement in and chair of the Copperopolis Community Plan. One of your big mantras has been the circulation element down there and the secondary access for the Copper Valley and the Copperopolis Community Plan. And this accord that we've reached with Oak Canyon Ranch is a big step in that direction. Also, Supervisor Walensky, unparalleled in his mediation and facilitating skills and bringing us together through some very sticky points and some minefields that may have, not been as successful as they were today, but with your help and unparalleled experience, it's been a great endeavor. So with that, Council, I would like to officially remove any objections that we had to this agreement through the letter that we sent to you in October of 2007, I believe, last year. So that should conclude that matter, and we would ask for your support today of this item before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to offer comment under the public hearing? If not, bring it back to the board. Any comments or questions from the board?
I asked for more oaks. I didn't get them. So I would like to know what is the duration that they have to, I can't remember because there was a change. What we were doing there. Yes. Thank you. Do you remember, Bob?
Oh, monitoring.
No, they plant one, it's got to survive for 7 years, 5 years.
Have 7-year requirement.
But that's more recent than what we did for Oak Canyon.
And I don't remember. Typically, we talked about before we actually had an ordinance specified. We talked about in perpetuity. I'm not sure that language is in there.
I'm sure it's not.
I would tend to think not. We do normally require that any required vegetation, whether it's part of an oak plan or a landscaping plan, actually we do use the terms installed and maintained in a healthy configuration, if you would, in perpetuity. Basically, we've said if you're required to put it in, you've got to maintain it. And we do deal with quite a few of the older subdivisions and struggling back and forth that they do have to continue to maintain landscaping requirements.
Okay. Thank you.
Other comments from the board? I have just one. I think Diane is correct to note that we don't have a mechanism in this county yet because we haven't had any money coming in mitigation for affordable housing. I don't think it belongs in this agreement. It does belong in establishing a county policy on this and that mechanism. So I'm hoping that will come before the board sometime after the agreement is ratified. So I don't know. We do have a housing study session, I think, that we have planned, and I would ask that that be included in this discussion.
Mr. Chairman, just if I could just formally, that the county's development agreement section is section 2.7.3, and it just reads, OCR shall pay to the county at the time of issuance of building permit the following fees: to contribute to the county's affordable housing program, $500 for each of the 2275 residential units, and $500 for each of the permanent occupancy resort units. So it is not optional at this point how that money comes forth. That you would have to come back and actually amend this development agreement, which, if your board so desires, there's obviously time to do so.
Actually, Bob, my comment was more to the fact that while it refers to a Calaveras County affordable housing program, we need to actually create one. And if that involves Habitat for Humanity or other mechanisms, that's the subject. And I do think we need to study this quickly before we begin to receive money without actually having created our side of the program. All right. Is there further discussion on this before we move to action?
Well, I can't let this 19-year duration go unextended here, but just make a couple of comments. I want to express my appreciation for the willingness of the parties to get locked into a room and let Supervisor Walensky beat them up to get to an agreement on the circulation element here. Bravo for that. I really appreciate it. And Marita, the name of this project is Oak Canyon Ranch. If they cut down too many oak trees, they could be brought up on charges for violating the truth in advertising rules. So.
That did not hit her sense of humor, Russ, I can tell.
I guess
not even a close call.
No, not even close. Okay. Did you want to make some comments?
Well, yeah, I would like to comment. I personally don't think I really beat up anybody, but I did find that there were significant issues regarding the circulation and public safety, and I found that all parties were concerned about the same thing, and that we found a way to have an agreement that was fair, equitable, required compromise on all sides. But I think it's a proud moment when we can get this level of developer participation in those kinds of mitigations, willingness to pay for improvements that their developments ultimately require public interest to address. And I also appreciate the flexibility and the creativity of county staff in helping us to come to these conclusions. But I think it's a real step forward for this county. I think we've accomplished some pretty important steps. We haven't covered all the concerns that were raised over the last number of years, but on the subjects before us, this has been a good process, and I hope this is the harbinger of great things to come down in Copperopolis. I want to thank all the parties. At this point, I would entertain a motion, or series of motions, actually.
Okay, I do want to just sort of read into the record for anybody who would be concerned about this particular project and its impacts. Under Sheriff Walker mentioned that the sheriff's agreement, in all likelihood, it can become a model for future, the way that the need for sheriffs will be handled in future applications and developments. But I also want to stress here that this is a project that has had a long-standing development agreement as it pertains to various things, including facilities and infrastructure, namely circulation that has recently come to full circle with this north-south connector. But there are also significant circulation, infrastructure, roadway considerations that have been very adequately addressed in this design. Anybody who would be concerned about the availability of water and or sewer connections, they should be rest assured that all of those issues have adequately been taken care of here, and will be I don't know how, when ultimately these facilities get built, they'll be covered under a facilities agreement with CCWD. I often hear people make the comments that, oh, we can't develop anymore in this county because we don't have adequate water. Well, this is one instance where we can be assured that there is. So unless anybody wants to weigh in and make further comments, I'd be pleased to move on this 10A. I would recommend that the Board of Supervisors pass a minute order confirming the project is statutorily exempt from environmental review pursuant to California Government Code Section 65457 and Public Resources Code Section 21083.3, based upon facts set forth in the November 14th, 2007 letter from Nikki Carlson, Weston, Benshoff, Rochefort, Rubalkov, McQuish, is that McQuish? Whatever. And that there has been no substantial evidence presented that constitutes new information which was not known and could not have been known with the exercise of a reasonable diligence at the time the EIR was certified. So, yes.
Yes, maybe we can wrap all of this into a single motion if possible, or do you need separate motions?
I would ask separate motions, just in all honesty, it works out a little better, but in this case, we need to amend that just slightly with, as I indicated, the following language. Adding the Sheriff's Office agreement dated March 21st, 2008 meets the requirements of mitigation measure 4.7.2.1A, and we will provide a revised minute order reflecting that language.
Okay, so moved.
So this is an amended minute order under recommendation number 1 in item 10A-B. Correct?
That's correct.
Read all three recommendations into the record?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll second the motion. Motion
second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote. Moving to item 10B.
Can we take a break? This was way too difficult for me.
Yes. We will take a 5-minute break, recess, let's say until 25 minutes to the hour.
What was the reason for that?
Okay, we will move to item 11, which is
10B.
Excuse me, 10B. I apologize. We interrupted our vote, and we are now at 10B for action. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to make a motion on this, but I wanted to ask the applicant one clarifying question, or question for clarification. Mr. Selman mentioned earlier that by approving these large parcel, by segregating these large parcels, that it would allow you the opportunity to transfer the school site or sites. Do you intend to do that?
Yes, we begin to start the process immediately for both the elementary school site as well as the high school site with both Brett Hart and Mark Twain.
Okay, when can we start attending football games?
That you need to talk to the districts about.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Selman, can you direct me about what we need to do on this particular thing?
Yes, and if I could just take one moment as an aside for clarification. On the last motion, just so the record is clear, could we have the chair and the board confirm that the motion, although it covered initially only the original motion, Supervisor Tryon-Benz, I believe, stated that covered all the motions, and I, rather than the chair, agreed to that, and we passed that. So we could, just as a matter of order, so the record is complete, could either the chair confirm that prior motion covered all three requested actions, or have...
Yes, the reference before the vote was that it covered all the recommendations under item 10A.
That's correct.
Thank you. Relative to 10B, we would ask that you adopt the same language that you did for 10A relative to the recommendation on the statutory exemption, which is the CEQA piece. And secondly, there is a motion to sign a resolution actually approving the tentative subdivision map with the conditions and findings as set forth in the resolution. Again, either one or two motions at your pleasure.
Okay, and again, what you're suggesting is under recommendation number 1 that it be as amended under 10A.
Correct. They would read the same.
Okay.
Okay, so moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion is second, and again, just for reference, we are adopting both recommendations, recommendation 1 as amended and recommendation 2 as it is written under this motion. Motion is second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
You're going to pull the board on making sure contracts.
That's right. Now that this is complete, I wanted to poll the board on the question of contracts and whether all contracts should come before the board, whether they are involved in mitigation measures or otherwise.
Yes, they should come before the board.
Let's turn to county council before we poll so we can become more informed on
Our purchasing code gives department heads and the CAO some limited contracting authority. I'm assuming you want to make exceptions for that.
Yes.
It's also the case that otherwise department heads do not have contracting authority. I think in this instance it was understood that the DA extended that authority to the sheriff.
Well, I believe that was
the general law is that department heads don't have contracting.
Okay, well, we need to make sure then, when we do development agreements or mitigation, et cetera, if there's contracts, they have to come back to the board.
I just wanted to make sure it was limited.
Okay.
Right, I think that this is more informative to people who are creating development agreements or other things that should not simply reference the satisfaction of a particular department, but it refers back to the board for approval. Yes. And so Tom is saying yes. Bill? Rita?
Not clear I understand. I mean, I understand where I think Tom's going, but what is it that Jim was trying to...
Supervisor Tryon said all contracts, and I just wanted to make sure that was a little bit...
We've granted leeway for small contracts for...
And this is more, I think, a clarification. I don't know that something has to be codified. I think we just need to give direction that that's how we want it.
I think you're just affirming what I understand the...
Well, let me ask a question. In the staff report on page 7 of 14, Bob, it says, with the exception of the Sheriff's Office service agreement, which must be approved by the board concurrently with or prior to the first map. So that's not saying that the sheriff has that authority, that it goes with the board?
Again, okay.
I heard what Janice said.
Perhaps it's my language. There was a mitigation measure that required that there in fact be a sheriff's office agreement. Under advice of council, we said, okay, let's make sure the board ratifies that agreement in fact meets its mitigation measure. So the language probably may be mine rather than the contract. I apologize if that's what.
Okay.
Because there was not, in our belief, the requirement for the board's signature. We just want to make sure that whatever the sheriff's agreement actually meant what you wanted, and we believed that all along, but we felt appropriate that you validate that.
I think what Supervisor Tryon is asking is that any contract that's required as a mitigation measure under CEQA be approved by the board. In this particular project, there was also another contract that was required with the Copperopolis Fire Protection District. So if the board directs staff that all mitigation measures must come and be approved by the board, then we would have to rewrite the mitigations in the future to accommodate that request. And that is doable, but in this respect, the mitigation measures did not read that way when they were approved back in 2003.
Okay.
But I just want to point out that development agreements do have to come to the board by ordinance. We're only talking about contracts that are required as part of a mitigation measure under CEQA.
That's right.
I think those should come to the board because I think we need to be fully informed of what's been negotiated.
Except, Tom, what about, for example, the one that Janice just mentioned with Copper Fire? We don't have authority to commit on behalf of the board of Copper Fire.
Well, we have authority to agree that, yes, this contract mitigates it in a satisfactory way. And I think we should retain that authority to make sure that one fire district isn't doing something way out of line with another fire district, or some fire district is basically just saying it's mitigated and we don't see a problem when the board does see a problem. I mean, if we're going to be in charge of land use decisions, then we better make sure that things are happening and that they're coordinated.
Further board discussion before we poll? Is there any staff input on this? Appears to be.
Good morning, Stephanie Moreno, Director of Community Development. I missed the original discussion, but I did want to address what Supervisor Tryon just said. We are in the process of meeting with the fire districts to formally do MOUs with each district so that we're all on the same page on how mitigations and projects are going to be processed. And so everything will be formalized and in writing, so that may mitigate some of your concern. But we also have had a procedural change in the last year. We no longer allow fire districts to just say, this is mitigated, period. We require them to outline the specific mitigations so the board is well aware of what those mitigations are. So whether it's an agreement or strictly a fire district has approved mitigation, the board ultimately has the right to make a decision if it's adequate or not, regardless if there's a separate agreement.
That's where I think it should come.
Yes.
I think
so I think that's already in place.
Responsibility
yes.
to ultimately say yes.
Right.
This is
and that is in
acceptable.
place already, so I just wanted to confirm that.
Yes, it wasn't in place in 1993, but it is now.
It is now, yes.
Good. Mr. Chairman, I'm trying to be a little careful here because not everything that gets approved with mitigation measures comes to the board. So, first of all, I would suggest if you want to have that direction, it should be by the approving agency. So if the Planning Commission has approved a project with a mitigation measure and the project stops there, if that's your direction, then it would have to go back for full ratification by the Planning Commission rather than the board. And that's, I mean, we don't normally require contracts at the Planning Commission level. But we do require evidence of things like adequate water, adequate sewage disposal, and those basically are contracts with CCWD or any of the utility districts. So that would mean those would all have to come back to the Planning Commission for review and approval or board approval. I want to make sure I'm understanding the full scope because it can include projects that are outside of your total jurisdiction at all.
If I understand correctly, what brought this to our attention today, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, is the fact that you have seemingly a private entity entering into a contract with a county agency with regard to their personnel and staffing.
Yes.
And that should at least have some kind of review from this board.
Absolutely.
So there's all sorts of contracts, and if somebody wants to contract to do things with the sewer district, or if they want to contract for biological setbacks or something like that, or oversight to that, I regard that as a little bit different than a private sector entity contracting with a county agency with regard to their personnel staffing and even future staffing, increasing their numbers. So that needs some review.
All right, I'm going to try to summarize this and see whether I've got a poll that makes any sense at all. First, there are a number of things that we're not polling on. One is things that are outside the jurisdiction of the board. Second, things that are already agreed as under the domain of department head discretion regarding signing of contracts, and that generally has to do with the dollar amount of that. We are also not talking about every single mitigation measure coming back. We're talking about those mitigation measures that have contracts that ultimately are funding county services and personnel. Am I fair in outlining that? All right.
Well, I would just say that have contracts. I don't care whether it's just funding or personnel or otherwise. If we're signing into a contract on behalf of the county with a developer, then I think it needs to come to the board. Because if it doesn't come to the board, then it doesn't even get county council review. And if we're committing to long-term contracts it needs to come to the board. It needs to be reviewed by county council. The administrative office needs to look at it, and then recommendations need to be placed on that when it comes to the board. So I think those should certainly come to the board.
All right. So on that topic, we will now poll the board and see where people are at. Tom?
Yes.
Bill? Maria?
Tom's topic, yes.
Russ?
Didn't county council participate in this sheriff's agreement? I don't want to complicate things beyond where they are. I mean, in this particular instance, where you had a mitigation measure that was required, that the applicant had to satisfy the sheriff, I don't see the necessity for the.
It doesn't apply to this one. I think that was.
We're talking about forward.
Future. Okay.
And this is basically instructed to staff as they create these development agreements or negotiate mitigations.
I would summarize my thoughts just by saying I don't want to overly complicate the process.
That would be a no.
And that's a no.
Okay, and I'm a yes, so we have four requests on that. I hope it doesn't overly complicate anything. It should clarify where the authorities lay on this topic, however.
Thank you.
Stephanie Moreno, Director of Community Development. Would it be okay if we memorialize that in a written policy, have council approve it, bring it back on a consent agenda so we're all in agreement as to what
I think it would be very
direction?
nice to formalize this, and since it's not an action item on this agenda, it would be good to bring it back, and I invite your department to do so.
Thank you. We'll take care of it.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that finishes those items, and we're now moving to item 11. This is a series, actually 11, 12, and 13 are involving minute orders with code compliance recommendations. Todd?
Good morning. Todd Barr with Code Compliance. The first case this morning involves Catherine Lubezi. And in this case, we got a complaint in July of 2006 concerning junk and debris. This went on for a little over a year and a half. The administrative citation was then issued between the time the citation was issued and it went to administrative hearing. She actually got most of the mess cleaned up. There's a couple small things to finish up. And at that time, she stipulated to the findings and was willing to pay her administrative costs.
So what action would you like the board to take?
So she's just uphold the findings and recommendations of the Administrative Hearing Board, which is imposition of the administrative costs.
But she has agreed to these?
Yes.
Really? Oh. Very cooperative of her.
Yes. Sure.
Hi, Stephanie Moreno, Director of Community Development. I was a little confused about bringing this to the board as well, but the code requires that we bring things even if they're satisfactorily resolved at the Planning Commission. So we will be sending forth a code amendment requesting that if there is agreement at Planning Commission or at the Administrative Hearing Board that it's not necessary for it to come to the board and take additional time. But at this point, we're trying to follow the code.
Okay. Well, I don't think we need to take a whole lot of time on this. Was there a motion?
I will move to uphold the recommendations of the Administrative Hearing Board.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Next.
Okay, the next case, first of all, we're asking you to uphold the findings and recommendations of the Administrative Hearing Board, Code Compliance Case 0803 regarding violation of county code by Gilbert Love. This case originated in August of 1993. A complaint was received regarding expired permits and hazardous conditions on Mr. Love's property where he had initiated construction of a new residence. After numerous attempts to gain voluntary compliance, Mr. Love was cited into municipal court. Eventually, actually during this case, a warrant was issued, and then the charges were then excused at a later date. Since that time, Mr. Love has reinstated his building permits on several occasions, and he's repeatedly allowed them to expire. The latest written complaint was received in July of 2006. Mr. Love was sent a notice of violation and reinstated his permits at that time. Since that time, permits have again expired and no progress has been made on the structure. On January 17th, 2008, Mr. Love was issued an administrative citation and administrative hearing was set for February 27th. Mr. Love was present at the hearing and he did not deny the existence of the code violations on the property, and the findings and recommendations were upheld by the Administrative Hearing Board.
Is there discussion on this item? Questions?
I do. Does this mean that if we abate, what is it that we're going to abate? There's lots of things to abate. Are we going to be building a whole house?
No. I think there would be a lot of discussion prior to the elimination of the violations by the county in this particular case. There's several scenarios that there could be. We could eliminate the hazardous stuff by boarding up the house in some type of semi-permanent fashion. You could actually, to eliminate the violation, the structure could be removed.
I'd be interested if Mr. Love is here.
Yes, is Mr. Love in the room? Is there anybody representing Mr. Love in the room? Apparently not.
Marie, I'll make one more comment. Chris is working with Mr. Love at this point to try and get him to finish the house. I mean, that's our goal, is to eliminate the hazard and get him to finish the house with valid permits.
Okay, I mean, that's a small street. That's not a long street. My concern is to board it up, then we're just inviting more problems down the road. So I guess I'll just ask you to keep me informed, because I don't want us fighting into something that it's going to cause us more problems down the road if Mr. Love does not complete what it is that he has to do.
Okay.
Okay. I'll make a motion to uphold the findings and recommendations of the Administrative Hearing Board and the 4 specific recommendations.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
My worry is we may be eliminating affordable housing in Marita's district, and that's a big issue for her.
Yeah, it is, Tom.
Okay, there's a motion, a second, and a gratuitous remark. Shall we move to a vote on this? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Vote is unanimous. Third in the series?
Yes. Okay. We're here to uphold the findings and recommendations of the Administrative Hearing Board in Code Compliance Case 0802 regarding violations of county code by David J. and Tammy Worth. In September of 2006, a stop work order was issued for a covered porch addition to a modular home. A follow-up visit was conducted in January of 2007, and the porch had been completed contrary to stop work order that was issued in September of 2006. No permits were issued up until January 18th of 2008, and basically we were ignored. So administrative citation was issued and a hearing held on February 27th. Finding and recommendations were upheld by the Administrative Hearing Board. In this particular case, Mr. Worth is here, and had some conversations with him this morning, and he'd like to address the board.
Okay, Mr. Worth, would you like to step forward?
Good morning.
Good morning.
As I said, I did not take care of those. I've been having financial problems. My wife's been in the hospital since 2006 of November. She's been back in there 4 times for different surgeries. I have medical records if you wish to take care of. Since I've been taking care of this, she's been now in the past month back in the hospital and back out 4 more times. So financially, I'm having a hard time trying to pay for all this. But I did take care of it. I got the permits. They're final. And I wish to take care of the administration costs, and that's as far as I got. So I did take care of everything that they had asked for.
Can I ask what is the exact nature of dispute, if any, before us? I'm just asking, what are the differences between the parties, if any?
He got his permit and then built the porch right after the administrative hearing. He had a final now.
Oh, yeah.
He said he's having these financial difficulties with his wife in the hospital. We don't really have a dispute at this point. He's taking care of this.
Right, okay.
Okay?
So essentially, we're simply ratifying an agreement that's already been met.
The original recommendations included an administrative fine of $3,300 at this point.
So let me ask you.
Excuse me, go ahead.
So let me ask you, this administrative fine that's reduced to $3,300, if inspection's made within 60 days of the hearing, or when would that have to be paid to have that amount? I mean, your 60-day period, I'm not sure when that is.
60-day period?
Yes.
It actually start from
on the minute order.
It actually start from today.
And okay, so Mr. Wood, how close are you to a final inspection, may I ask?
I already have it done.
You have it done?
Everything's done.
I would request at this point that the $3,300 be forgiven if Mr. Worth is in compliance and he has a final inspection. And
okay, that's fine. So in other words, the motion is to waive the administrative costs and to accept the project as complete.
Exactly, and to
Okay, then I'll second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Is that what you said, Todd? He has a final on his...
He has a final now. I believe what Mr. Worth was asking was a waiver of the fine.
Okay, that's what I was asking earlier, and I believe that...
So how much are the administrative costs? I thought we were waiving everything.
No.
$440.
$440.
Well, why don't we waive everything?
I'd like to waive everything if I can get the board.
The second still holds.
Okay, there's a motion to waive both the fine and the administrative fees. There's a second.
No,
Yes,
I want to comment.
And there's one comment left before the vote.
No, I will support the waiver of the fines. I do not support the other waiver of the 440.
Okay,
I mean,
I
that's been
will...
a significant cost of county time. This has been going on for some time, and I don't think the taxpayers of Calaveras should eat that cost.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll separate the motion into two parts. One is for the waiver of the fine, and the second will be for the waiver of the administrative fees.
Thank you.
Those in favor of waiving the fine, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, that passes on a 5-0. Those in favor of waiving the administrative fees of $400 and some change, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Passes on a 3-2 vote. So everything is waived.
Take care of your wife.
Thank you.
I might have screwed up some of the papers and the leaves. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Okay. Amazingly enough, we are at our 11 a.m. Public Works Human Resources, item 14, and only 4 minutes behind schedule. It's a miracle.
You had to say it, didn't you?
Yeah, that jinxes it for sure. Mike?
Good morning. Mike Miller, Interim Public Works Director. This is a staff report requesting you amend the Calaveras County Code section for the Department of Public Works, abolishing the Office of Road Commissioner and assigning those functions to a newly titled Director of Transportation and Public Works. The reason for this request is the board had recently interviewed candidates for Public Works Director. They wanted a broader pool at the time they did that. They were restricted by certain requirements in our code now and in the Streets and Highway Code to have a registered professional engineer in the Public Works Director position. So we looked at the Streets and Highways Code. What we're asking you to do is to abolish the Road Commissioner position, transferring the responsibilities for Public Works to the Director of Transportation and Public Works, and engineering functions will be handled by a California registered professional engineer within the department under the director's authority. You'll have this before you today. It'll come back to you next week, and then it'll be effective in 30 days after a public notice. We'll make the changes to the job description after that has been passed and the 30-day period is up.
Okay, do we have any comments from administration on this? All right, any questions from the board?
Mike, having a professional engineer do the work, they don't have to be a county employee. We could contract with that, correct?
That's correct. We could, as long as a person is under the authority of the director. It just so happens that we have registered professional engineers that work for us currently.
Just the director of transportation, would that be the Public Works Director, or would that be Nathan?
No, it's the title that they ask for in the Streets and Highways Code is specifically the Director of Transportation and Public Works.
I love Road Commissioner. That's a great title.
Okay. There's any further discussion? Russ?
Well, the only thing that caught my eye on this whole thing is the convoluted wording on the page thing under D. No, it's item E. I've read that thing 100 times, and I don't know what it says. I mean, I think it's talking about that this these particular contracts that have that if they exceed $25,000 and if they're necessitated because of the imminent occurrence of a landslide or flood or emergency situation, but the wording is backwards. So I'd like for
This is excerpted from the Public Contract Code. So it's there, it's codified. And I also think that, and County Council could correct me, that our own purchasing guidelines are the guidelines that we follow within the county, and they are probably more restrictive than what the state code is.
Okay.
I don't know how many years old this code is, but it may date back to the mid-century.
Okay.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to introduce an ordinance to, should I read this whole thing into the record? Okay.
No, as recommended.
The ordinance in front of us as recommended.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0 vote.
Thank you.
Item 15. Human Resources.
Good morning. Francine Osborne, Administration, Human Resources and Risk Management. Last week, there was a board packet where we discussed the reorganization of the administrative office and the establishment of a new HR department. The board introduced 2 new ordinances, and today the action before you is actually to adopt them.
I move adoption of the ordinance rescinding
Second.
and the new one.
You want to combine? You're asking to combine vote?
No, but I will. That's a good point. Can we combine 15, 16? Francine, unless there's any comment from the board, I move adoption of item 15 and 16.
Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Waive reading.
Huh?
And waive reading.
Oh, yes, thank
Waive
you,
reading.
Supervisor.
second.
And waive
You're
reading.
very welcome, Supervisor.
Yeah, but where is Joe Kelly when we need him?
All right. We have a motion and a second, and this combines the ordinance, both the ordinance under item 15 and the ordinance under item 16. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no nays, both are passed on a 5-0 vote.
So we'll see you in 30 days as a department head.
Yes, I will no longer refer to myself as part of the administration, even though I'll be part of the administrative team. So. Thank you.
So we
Thank
create
you.
another department above the
Okay, as I had promised in the previous board meeting, I will open for public comment. At this time, any comment on the closed sessions? Excuse me, I'll do that after the next item, item 17, which is a discussion and possible action, resolution authorizing application for a local adult detention facility,
At
Assembly Bill
11:30.
900, and that will be at 11:30. So we'll go into recess, unfortunately,
Well, why
for...
don't we do some closed sessions
we
if you
could do
like?
some
We can
closed
go to
sessions.
Do we have any
You know
short
what? I
closed
have
sessions?
a question about what C said. Why do we, is it just being nice that we're going to ask for public comment on closed session? Or do we,
Yes.
should we? And, I mean, it's just being nice.
It comes under, anything is fair game for public comment.
Except that the public comment is under items not on the agenda, and since this is on the agenda, it appears to have some problem unless we change our approach to that.
And we can take closed session prior to the time schedule.
Yes.
So, which is what Tom or Steve requested we do. But, I mean, I don't want to just play the game of, does anybody have any comments on closed session? We're not going to comment on it. We report out on it. It's in the minutes if we do something.
I didn't,
It's different than the open mic time.
I'll check with and see what other counties do. I'm not aware of any basis for public comment on the closed sessions. I'm not saying that it's inappropriate or against the law, but I'm not aware of any other county following that practice. I'll check and see if I can find
I mean, I don't
some
want to
guidance
just
from
do
someone else.
the
I
exercise.
think, personally, I thought it was an abundance of caution on the part of the chair, but it's the chair's choice.
You're saying I can rule by fiat on this topic? Or actually, what I'm interested in, is there anything that informs us in the way of practice or litigation that either allows us to deny public comment on that or accept it? And what I worry about, and the reason I am suggesting this as a way to approach it, is that if somebody has a concern about something that's on the agenda but can't comment under public comment, and that we offer no opportunity later in the agenda, it actually does.
Okay. So let me tweak him a little more.
That's okay.
It says it's going to be done at 11:30, but we can take closed session items at 10 o'clock or now. So and somebody walks in, well, you didn't wait till 11:30.
Well, you don't have to tie the public comment to the closed session timing. If this becomes the board's will as opposed to the chair's decision, I suppose public comment could also cover comment on closed session items. But I don't have a firm recommendation. I can tell you there's nothing in the Brown Act on this subject. There's no case law that I'm aware of on the subject. The only guidance I could look for would to see if other counties have some different practice that might be something that I could suggest to you.
And as for me, I would prefer the simpler way of including it under the original public comment and just mention that it's items not on the agenda or closed session items, and that would take care of the issue in a simple way.
That's fine.
Shall we poll on that just to see where the board is so I can be relieved of the burden of administrative fiat?
Oh, no.
You want to stick me with it, don't you?
That's fine. I think that's where it belongs.
I think you should
We're
do
not
it up
going to
there,
get
yeah.
into a
Some
debate on
comment.
closed
Rita?
items issues.
No, there's a no.
It won't be in
Any
closed
yes? So
session.
I'm a yes, so it's 4 yeses, 1 no. And if we could change the wording on our agendas from now on, that will take care of that. Nevertheless,